Hey guys, welcome back to Vice headquarters. I am Quinn.
And I'm Josh.
And today we have a 5th gen Ram 2500 truck. And we are going to hide a winch in behind the factory bumper.
This is our hidden winch mount kit for 2019 and newer 2500 and 3500 Rams with the 6.4 Hemi. It will receive the winch right back here, fairly bolts on here. It'll come out just in that mesh section of the bumper. And then we have these frame brackets that will bolt right onto all the factory points, mounts this in there. And then we also have our optional light kit. Bolts on the side here. We'll pop the hood. And now we're gonna disconnect the ground. It's a 10mm. We're gonna chalk the back tires this time because we're gonna lift the front end up so we get a little more room. We'll do that. So now that we've done all that, the next step is gonna be to remove the bumper. So there is 8 18mm fasteners we're gonna take off. Then if you have fog lights, there'll be a fog light harness, and sensors, there'll be a sensor harness. And a really easy one to forget too is the block heater. It is tucked in behind here, and it's got to come off before the bumper does. Block heater cable, we just get that disconnected. There's this 18mm nut and this one, and 2 on the other side of the frame as well. And we normally just leave this nut, just thread it on a little bit, just so the bumper doesn't fall off till you want it to come off.
So just before you pull the bumper off, you want to take these inner fenders and pull them out and around so it doesn't fight you.
So this splash tray just connects at the top of the bumper here. So with our clip tool, we're just gonna remove these. And now that's free. Bumper's ready to come off.
So now that we've undone all the nuts holding the bumper on, unplugged the harnesses, untucked the inner fender, and undone those 4 clips, we can just pull it right off. And don't forget the block heater.
So the winch mount attaches to these 3 large fasteners right here. Center one is a 24mm, and the outside ones are 18mm. So grab a breaker bar or a strong impact and work these off. We supply a longer bolt for this when it goes back on, so you won't need this, but retain this. All right, so now we're gonna install the first bracket onto the frame. These are the frame brackets here. This is the driver's side. And I've got the fasteners, the factory fasteners still in the top and bottom. This is gonna slide over top like that. And we will secure it in place with the factory hardware. And everything can be left loose for now. Then we're gonna grab the factory nut here with the tang. This tang goes through this hole right there and back up here. And then this is the new high grade fastener 10.9 that we give you in your hardware kit. And slide that through. And just snug that up.
Now we are going to install our control box relocation kit on the winch. I'm going to start by taking out the 4 screws on the bottom. They are a Phillips. Here, we've had this winch apart before, so we just labeled the colors. We are going to have to pull off this ground. It's also a Phillips right here. And we'll install the ground that comes with our kit. We're going to take off their factory ground. And we'll just install the one that is on our kit. Just like that. I'll get these all angled so they go out through here, and we'll get these tightened down again. So installed our power cable. Close this up and we'll just put those 4 Phillips screws back in. So now that all the wiring's done and we got the control box back together, we're just going to take out these with the winch plug side up. We're going to take out the top 2 4mm Allen screws here, and we're going to install our control box relocation bracket. And we're going to want this bracket to go on with the hole on the kind of tapered side of the control box like this. There we go, just like that. It's ready for the truck. Now we'll get the truck ready for the box.
The control box mounts right here in front of the fuse box, and it fastens to this bolt right here. So it's gonna pull a couple of these clips out of the way. And then tuck this in underneath the fender. That's gonna give us access to where we need here. So 13mm. Take that fastener out. Take our extended wires and feed it down beside the washer fluid filler here. And just on the inside of the frame. Now this box here, we'll just finagle into place. Actually, I should show you. We just have this big connector right here. If you just pop it out and push it down, it gives you a bit more room. This just slides like that, and we're going to put this bracket and pinch it right there. This fastener back in. And then we'll put those 3 clips back in. But now you can easily access your winch plug here, so you can charge your controller, or if for some reason the wireless isn't working, plug that in.
So now we're going to clock the winch. I'm going to clock it 180 degrees so that the handle is facing out the front of the vehicle and it's way easier to engage and disengage the clutch. So to do that, we just stand them on end and we just undo all these 4mm fasteners. Now that we got those 7 4mm Allen screws out, we're just going to turn this to free spool. Just going to raise it up a little bit, just not to hurt any of the seals inside. Now we're going to just really slowly turn it 180 degrees. Just like that. We will put all the screws back in. Note where the long ones were was where it has to go a longer distance. And we just have to clock the handle 180 degrees now as well, and it's just the same size fastener right here. Loosen that off. Don't lose that O-ring. And now we'll be able to spin in the mount.
So I've got the winch here positioned how it's going to install in the truck. If you've done everything right, these terminals face up on the driver's side. This clutch handle looks like this, facing forward on the passenger side. And we're gonna reconnect our control box, which is now up in the engine bay. And first thing, we can take the boots off of the short wires that you pulled off the winch and slide them onto these color-coded wires here. And now we're just gonna connect them and their color orientation. So yellow to yellow, green to green, blue to blue. This black one goes to this ground connector, and then we're gonna grab the winch ground that came in this box, and it's gonna go up, and we're gonna park that beside the battery. Now we're going to install this main plate on the winch face here using the supplied winch hardware.
Great stuff.
Nice touch. I'll hold it up while Josh threads it in. So the winch fastened on the plate. Now we can lift it on and mate it with the frame horns here. I'm gonna just lift it into place while Josh puts the fasteners in.
Kind of want to lift it. And scoop it in.
Then we have the two 3/8 carriage bolts per side. And they just drop in through the top. And then we'll add the washer and nut on the bottom here.
All right, so before we fasten those bolts down, we're gonna tighten these three here. So again, 18 mil. Are you on the bottom there, Josh?
Yep.
Top one. And then 24 mil for the center one. And repeat for the other side.
So now that we've tightened up these frame bolts here, we know that the mount is nice and clamped to the frame. We're going to center the winch mount.
So these plates here are slotted to allow slight variances in frame widths. So what we're just gonna do is find the center.
And then we'll tighten up these three 18 millimeter. And after we tighten up the three 18 millimeter on each side, we'll tighten up the 9/16 nuts on the bottom here.
So while we're in here, I might as well show you how the light kit mounts. So if you order the light kit, it comes with these brackets. These brackets sit right here. Grab our 3/8 carriage bolts right through there and slide it and rotate it in place with 3/8 washer and 3/8 nut. All right, so the next step is to prep your bumper for the install. Now there's a bunch of different ways you can do that, so let's go over the few that we've thought of. So the easiest thing to do, per se, so I guess the most bolt-on, not the easiest for us because we like cutting things, is to remove this plastic insert around here. This bezel fastens with little 8mm nuts on the back side, and it can come out. That's going to give full access to your winch controls, everything in here. Now some trucks, we've got this bumper here, have sensors in the front, so you're going to want to retain these. So let's talk about the cutting options. So that fairlead centers in this whole insert here, and the back, or I guess the mounting face actually sits flush with the back of this. So if you want, you can lay out this in the center, trace around here, just cut that out. The easier version would be to just cut around the edges here, and that's what we're gonna do. If you're running a steel cable line, let's just hop onto this one right here. This one here looks like it should fit, but you'll have to zip right to the end. So this one, if you're doing the full roller fairlead, you'll probably want to take this whole insert out, just cut it at the width. Now there's tons of fasteners, it's not going to flop around, and do it that way. Or again, you could just remove this whole thing, just cut it there and there. Essentially there's a million ways to skin the cat. We're gonna skin the cat by just cutting this whole thing out. So let's talk clutch access. That might help make your decision on what method you're gonna use to trim this front here. There's a nice big hole right here. So if you're running our light kit, or you want to keep the mesh in the front, you can actually just reach in here and turn the clutch. This big valence here, I don't know, what does it give you, 0.069 miles per gallon more? It's already been smashed. We're gonna take it off. It gives you another 6 inches of clearance. So yeah, we're gonna get rid of the big splitter on the bottom. It's gonna leave tons of access in there. So you can run lights, access the clutch. Probably the easiest way of cutting it out too. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do. And we can do it right in the bumper this way. So flip it over, put it on some cardboard, and just snip that out. So these are those fasteners that I was talking about. This little T-bolt here. If you just loosen these off, this will push out. It's in behind here. There's a few more hiding in here. Loosen that out, you can take that whole grill insert out. I want to leave it in there just because I like the little radiused edge. It kind of finishes it off a bit more. So we're just gonna zip right along the lines here, right around the outside, along there, leaving a little bit of material, and then we can just kind of clean it up with an X-Acto or something. So we got this center section cut out there with the zip disc, and just cleaned it up nice and smooth on the edges. Just came to me that you could also probably buy the POWERWAGON insert if you didn't want to do any cutting. It'll drop in here, it looks the same as this, but for us this is easier and it still looks good. Now we're going to get rid of this damaged valance off the bottom. It's a string of 10mm nuts that hold it in place. So.
At this point, you can install the fairlead. We'll snug it up there. We've got the fairlead all buttoned up. We are going to hook the winch up to the battery and re-spool on the winch line. Okay, so the negative's still unhooked. I've just taken off this 12mm nut from the positive terminal. We're going to hook up the positive of the winch to that terminal, tighten it all down. There we go. And then we've already gone ahead and we hooked up the negative of the winch to the negative terminal on the battery, and now we can go ahead and reconnect the battery now that all of our winch connections have been made. And this was a 10 millimeter and also a 10 millimeter to reinstall the terminal.
So we're going to spool this line in. Now the Evo actually comes pre-spooled from factory. This is a floor model we had. It had the line off of it, so we're going to spool it all in. Now to do this, we're going to have as much tension on it as possible and walk it back and forth. And then later we'll pre-tension it to warrant specifications in their user manual. You just want to have as much load on it so it doesn't bottom out on the drum and get stuck. Wireless remote, the Evo. Hold the button until it's powered on, and then bottom button is in. One thing we forgot to do was put this hook anchor in. So just remove this fastener here if you're keeping the hook on. And bolt this anchor system in place. And this is just a nice tidy place to put your hook. So just about time to bolt the bumper back on. One thing, these fasteners here, a lot of times this little washer, this push nut that holds them in place, comes loose from taking the bumper on and off a few times. So we're going to give you replacements in your hardware kit. So this is the stud here. Just put the stud in how it was. The specialty washer goes over top and just lock it on with a socket. It holds it in place. If they're all loose like this one here, then it's hard to get the bumper back on. So I'll just push that one off. Swap it out for a new one. Another thing I recommend removing is just this little valance here that sits along the top edge. A couple reasons. This, and we notice it just rattles around and scratches the paint, but it's also going to be pretty frustrating to put the bumper back on. It's just goes a little in behind there, keeps a little bit of wind through there, gives you maybe 0.00420 miles per gallon extra. We don't really care about that, so took those off and on the truck it goes. So while we're here, we're going to show you how to notch it if you're going to run steel cable, if you're going to opt to run the rollers. With that said, we prefer to run the nodular iron single piece Hawes Fairlead that Warren makes for steel cable, less moving parts. But I digress. Let's make this work. So it looks like this will fit in the actual steel bumper itself, but it contacts the plastic. So all I did is center this in the bumper here. You can either use these as reference points for the, but I've got 7 5/8 and 7 5/8 there to that lip. I'm going to mark it around here, given about an 1/8 inch all the way around, and we're just going to cut the plastic out. This should sit right through. Yeah.
So now that we've got the bumper on, we had all these nuts kind of finger tight, got the bumper aligned to where we want it, and now we're just going to go ahead and tighten those 8 18 millimeter nuts again.
Yeah, so we got the bumper fastened on here, everything centered, tightened down, looks great. Here's what I was talking about, that clutch. So with this whole center section cut out, quite like it. You can see the lights pretty good. The lights will have good angle to shine light. This clutch action right here, you can get in here, you can see, super easy to access. Turn it right here, especially because it comes out the front. You know, if you didn't have that, you might have it sticking off the back. You got to crawl underneath, and you might be in a compromising spot to do so. So It's nice to have it up front here. Pretty factory looking. Yeah, let's get off the jack stands and get outside for some shots.